This is a psychological analysis of how extroversion is shaped, rewarded, and exploited through environment and access. You are not being judged. The mechanism is being exposed through lived conditions. Expect explanation by movement, proximity, and repetition, not theory. You stand in bright rooms, voices orbiting you. Each step forward tightens the circle, turning attention into duty, movement into capture, choice into choreography. Chapter 1. The room assigns you. People who are extrovert are conditioned by spaces that reward visibility and penalize withdrawal. You enter the room without thinking. The lights are already on. Chairs face inward. The center is clear, open, expectant. You do not choose where to stand. You drift toward where bodies already cluster. The floor plan does the work. Silence sits at the edges. Sound pools in the middle. Your shoulders square as you cross the threshold. Not from confidence, from alignment. The room trains posture before words appear. Upright bodies receive acknowledgement. Angled bodies are passed over. You feel it in seconds, not as a thought, but as a pressure to face forward. The air is active. Conversations overlap, then separate, then recombine. You move with them. Each step closer increases signal. Each step back dissolves you. Nothing tells you to stay visible, yet everything rewards it. Faces turn. Names are spoken. You are counted. You notice how stillness behaves here. Stillness does not rest. It attracts questions. A pause becomes noticeable. Someone fills it for you. Movement is safer than stopping. Motion keeps you legible. The room is not neutral. Entry points are narrow. Exits are behind you, unlit, unannounced. The center is warm, bright, dense. The perimeter is cool and thin. You feel the difference on your skin. The system prefers circulation, not escape. You speak because silence invites interpretation. A nod triggers another exchange. A laugh widens your footprint. Each response confirms your placement. You are not talking to express, you are talking to remain included. The distinction is invisible while you're inside it. Time compresses here. 10 minutes feels like one continuous moment. The room does not mark beginnings or endings, only continuation. You stay longer than planned because leaving requires explanation. Arrival does not. You realize the assignment was completed before you noticed it. You are the connector, the energizer, the visible one. No one asked you to be this. The room arranged conditions that made it efficient. Look at the spacing. People stand just close enough to require engagement, not intimacy. Gaps are narrow, forcing acknowledgement when you pass. Every path crosses another body. Avoidance becomes effort. Your phone vibrates. You glance down, then back up. Someone noticed. Attention flickers. You restore it by leaning in, by responding quickly, by occupying the shared center again. The correction is automatic. The longer you remain, the more the role stabilizes. Others relax when you maintain it. When you animate the space, the system hums smoothly. When you slow, friction appears. You feel responsible for the room's temperature without being told. This is how safety is framed. Safety equals participation. Safety equals being seen. Withdrawal feels like error. Not danger, error. As if you stepped off a marked path. The assignment is not hostile. It is efficient. The room selects for those who maintain flow, those who keep surfaces active, those who prevent silence from settling. You don't resist because nothing feels imposed. You feel chosen. Recognition replaces autonomy. The space mirrors you back to yourself until the reflection hardens into expectation. By the time you consider leaving, the room already knows you as present. The exit is still there, but the cost has changed. Stepping away now means breaking pattern. Patterns resist interruption. You adjust your stance, you smile, you stay. The room has assigned you. Chapter 2. Access becomes obligation. People who are extrovert learn that access is maintained only through continuous availability. The door does not close behind you anymore. It stays open. Messages arrive without knocking. Calls slide into gaps between moments. Access feels flattering at first, proof of relevance, confirmation of position. You answer quickly because delay feels louder than refusal. Your phone rests face up. The screen lights before you decide to look. Names appear. You recognize the pattern. The faster you respond, the wider the channel stays. Access expands quietly, then stabilizes as expectation. You are reachable from multiple angles now. Work, social, casual, urgent, no clear separation. Each channel uses the same posture. Lean forward, quick response, minimal pause. Your body learns it faster than your mind. Hands move before intention forms. Availability reshapes time. There is no clean start, no clean stop. Interactions bleed into one another. You finish one exchange while already preparing the next. Gaps shrink. Silence becomes suspicious. You notice how access is tested. A late reply triggers a follow-up. 2 missed signals produce escalation. Nothing confrontational, just increased frequency. The system nudges, not demands. You comply to restore equilibrium. Rooms extend into pockets. The space you leave follows you. Conversations restart where they paused, as if no distance passed. You carry unfinished loops in your chest. They hum until closed. You begin to preempt. You reply before being asked. You check channels without prompts. This is not anxiety, it is conditioning. The body prefers closure. Open access keeps loops open. Watch how withdrawal behaves. When you go quiet, others fill the silence with concern, humor, reminders. The pressure is soft but constant. You reappear to relieve it. Relief feels mutual, which hides the cost. Access reframes choice. Saying yes feels neutral. Saying no requires explanation. Delay requires justification. Immediate availability becomes the path of least resistance. You adjust language to maintain flow. Short replies, open-ended commitments. Anytime, let me know. Each phrase widens the channel further. The system rewards flexibility with inclusion. Notice the asymmetry. Others can disappear briefly. You cannot, without disruption. Your role depends on continuity. When access collapses, the structure wobbles. You feel useful, needed, central. These feelings are accurate and functional. They keep the circuit closed. Eventually, availability stops feeling like something you offer. It feels like something you are. Your presence becomes infrastructure. Turning it off feels like breaking a utility. You stay reachable because the alternative feels like loss of position. The obligation is never stated. It is implied through repetition. Access no longer opens doors. It keeps them from closing. Chapter 3. Attention is metered. People who are extrovert are trained to chase fluctuating attention as a stabilizer. Attention does not arrive evenly. It pulses. A look lands, then slides away. A voice rises toward you, then drifts to someone else. You feel the drop immediately, like a temperature change on exposed skin. You adjust without thinking. Lean in. Speak sooner. Increase volume by a fraction. These are not strategies, they are corrections. The room teaches you how to keep the signal alive. Watch the rhythm. Attention spikes when you enter, then decays. It always decays. The system is designed that way. Scarcity keeps movement continuous. You feel the decay before it's visible, and you act to counter it. Posture becomes adaptive. When attention thins, your body angles forward. When it returns, you relax by a degree. These micro shifts repeat until they feel natural. Calibration replaces expression. You learn what earns signal. Timing matters more than content. Short gaps invite interruption. Long gaps erase you. You speak into openings, not because you have something to say, but because openings close quickly. The eyes in the room behave like indicators. When they cluster on you, you feel anchored. When they scatter, you feel exposed. The body responds by producing something, movement, sound, reaction, to pull them back. Notice how praise functions. It arrives intermittently, just enough to confirm position, not enough to settle you. You never know when it's coming, only that it might. That uncertainty keeps you active. Silence becomes risky. Not because it's punished, but because it's unscored. No feedback arrives in stillness. Without signal, orientation blurs. You speak to re-establish bearings. You begin to anticipate attention shifts. You interrupt yourself to maintain tempo. You accelerate stories. You add emphasis where it's not needed. The goal is not clarity, it's continuity. Over time, attention stops feeling external. You internalize the meter. You sense when you're up or down without looking. The room no longer needs to signal. Your body tracks it. This is how dependence forms without craving. You are not seeking admiration. You are maintaining balance. Attention becomes the weight that keeps you upright. When attention drops too low, discomfort rises. Not panic, misalignment. You correct again, louder, closer, faster. Eventually, the chase fades from awareness. It becomes background motion. You feel normal only while adjusting. The system does not demand performance, it varies the reward. Chapter 4. Repetition automates presence. People who are extrovert are shaped by loops that reward repetition over intention. The days start to look alike, even when the locations change. You arrive, you are seen, you respond. You stay longer than planned. The sequence repeats without friction. Familiarity smooths the edges until the motion feels inevitable. You stop noticing the start. There is no clear entry anymore, only continuation. Conversations resume midstream. Roles pick up where they left off. You do not warm up, you activate. Repetition removes decision points. You no longer ask whether to engage. Engagement is the default. The body moves into position before the room fully registers. This efficiency feels like competence. Schedules compress. One interaction overlaps the next. You switch contexts without pause. The gaps that once allowed recalibration are gone. Stillness would require effort now. Watch how memory behaves. Individual moments blur, but the pattern sharpens. You remember how to act, not what you felt. Presence becomes procedural. The system favors this. Predictable presence keeps circulation stable. Others rely on it. You sense their relief when you show up the same way again. Consistency replaces curiosity. Your expressions shorten. Reactions become quicker. You anticipate needs before they surface. This feels like mastery, but it's automation. The loop tightens because it works. Repetition dulls resistance. What once required energy now costs nothing. You laugh at the right beat. You fill space automatically. You keep things moving. The room hums. Time begins to flatten. Weeks pass without markers. You are busy, yet nothing feels distinct. The role persists even as scenes change. You are everywhere, but rarely alone. When you attempt to slow, the loop pulls you back. Notifications arrive. Invitations stack. The pattern reasserts itself. Automation prefers continuity. Eventually, presence stops being something you offer. It becomes something that runs. Chapter 5. Distance feels like failure. People who are extrovert experience distance as loss because proximity was engineered as value. You step back and the space reacts. Not dramatically, subtly. Conversations tilt without you. Messages arrive with a different tone. A pause stretches longer than expected. The system registers the gap. Distance changes how time feels. Minutes away feel heavier than hours spent inside. You check the clock more often. You sense momentum slipping, as if something is moving without you now. Proximity used to feel optional. Now, it feels stabilizing. Being close keeps signals clean. Being away introduces noise. You return to reduce interference. Notice how absence is framed. It invites interpretation. Questions form. Explanations are requested. You find yourself justifying distance that once required none. The cost is not punishment, it's friction. Your body resists withdrawal. Muscles stay primed. Attention remains outward. Even alone, you feel oriented toward re-entry. Distance becomes a temporary malfunction to correct. The environment reinforces this. Screens light up. Alerts stack. Familiar names pull you back into alignment. The longer you wait, the more effort it takes to rejoin. Re-entry pressure grows. You tell yourself you'll step away briefly. Brief becomes negotiable. The system tolerates short absences, but tracks them. Prolonged distance marks deviation. You notice a shift in how you're perceived. When present, you are expected. When absent, you are referenced. The transition feels like demotion, even if nothing was said. Distance stops feeling like rest. It feels like erosion. You return to restore position, to smooth the surface, to reassure continuity. The relief is immediate and temporary. Proximity is no longer closeness. It is maintenance. Chapter 6. Stillness is logged. People who are extrovert are monitored by pauses more than actions. You stop moving and something tightens. Not outside, inside. The room doesn't confront you, it waits. Waiting is the signal. Stillness stands out more than noise ever did. A pause stretches. Someone checks in. Another fills the gap. The system responds to stillness as an anomaly to correct. You feel it as pressure, not accusation. Your body learns this quickly. Even when you intend to rest, micro-movements resume. You shift posture. You glance at the screen. You send a short response just to keep the line warm. Motion restores neutrality. Stillness creates records. A delayed reply timestamps itself. An unanswered message leaves a visible shape. Silence accumulates weight the longer it sits. You interrupt it to prevent build-up. Notice how effort in motion is invisible, but effort in stopping is obvious. Activity blends in, pauses protrude. The system doesn't need to watch you constantly. It only needs to notice when you disappear. You begin to preempt logging. You announce breaks. You signal availability windows. You explain silence in advance. Stillness now requires narration. Even alone, the habit persists. You reach for the phone without prompt. You check channels without alerts. The body resumes circulation because it learned what happens when it doesn't. Rest no longer feels neutral. It feels exposed. You shorten it to avoid detection. You stay lightly active to remain unmarked. The system does not punish stillness, it counts it. Chapter 7. When identity is performed. People who are extrovert are selected by systems that prefer performance over sovereignty. At some point, nothing feels forced anymore. You move before deciding. You respond before reading fully. The role activates itself the moment a signal appears. Effort disappears, not because you're free, but because the pattern has settled. You notice how introductions happen now. Others describe you before you speak. Energy, presence, always on. The words arrive quickly, confidently. You recognize them because you've lived inside them long enough to make them accurate. Identity condenses around output, not who you are alone, but how reliably you animate space. When rooms quiet, they look to you. When momentum drops, you feel the pull to restore it. Performance feels like responsibility. You no longer measure yourself by intention. You measure by reaction speed, by availability, by how little friction follows your presence. Smoothness becomes proof of self. Watch how refusal behaves. Saying no now requires explanation, tone management, reassurance. It disrupts the performance. You soften it instinctively. You keep the role intact even while declining. The system remains uninterrupted. The environment confirms the identity back to you. Access stays open. Attention pulses. Inclusion persists, as long as the performance does. You are not trapped by force. You are stabilized by reward. Eventually, the question stops appearing. Not, do I want to be here, but who would I be if I wasn't? The absence of the role feels undefined. The performance provides shape. You still feel choice, but it's constrained to execution, not direction. You choose how to perform, not whether the performance runs. This is the replacement. Not loss of self, but substitution. Identity becomes function. Presence becomes infrastructure. You are recognized everywhere and owned nowhere. The system does not erase you, it installs you.